Canada in 1896
1896.
with her parents.
And had she chosen to marry your father?
No, she didn't. She didn't know at that time that she was supposed to marry my father.
Mm.
He did come across, that her parents brought my father across to Canada too.
Was it some sort of deal?
Oh, I feel that there was probably a deal that my father's father probably paid for the trip for my grandfather, my mother's father and family to take my father with them and have my father marry my mother. He wanted a good wife for my father because my father was not doing too well in Europe. And my grandfather, Schreier, thought there were going to be a lot of wars, and he said it was better for bring the family to
That was a
Canada.
smart move, wasn't it?
Yes,
to leave.
it was. He used to do a lot of reading. He was very smart that way.
What was the age that your mom and dad got married?
They got married in 1899.
Oh, like they were in their 20s?
Mother was, I guess, about 1899. She was born. She was 22.
22.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
father was 25.
And it was a hard life for her over in
It was a very
Canada.
hard life. And actually, they removed stumps, from the ground and everything, the tree stumps and that, with the oxen and to make to prepare the land for to grow things on. They worked very, very hard.
But I guess your dad did fairly well.
Yes, my dad was. He was very smart this way. He was a much better farmer than my grandfather. He went to farm with the Mennonites. He went and lived with them for
and learned how they
and learned how, because they knew how to farm. I learned how to farm, and he was a good farmer. He made money, but a lot of my mother's parents really didn't do that well.
And when you got married and you were living in Vancouver, your mom came to stay with you for a while?
Yes. Well, my mother finally left my father when she was older.
He was
when
tough on her.
I was in training for a nurse, because they really couldn't be left alone, because they never talked to each other, and he would beat her up. The family used to protect her. He was always sending the family around. So when she got to be really older, so she left my father and came to live with my sister. And she had a lawyer draw up. She got some money from my father, so that it had to be got through a lawyer, so that she would have money to live on. But it wasn't enough that she could live alone. So she did move to Vancouver with us, and she used to come live with me after I was married, and had a home in the winter.
Okay, I gather your dad was pretty hard on everybody growing up, and hard on your mom.
Yes, he actually, by the time I arrived, soon after that, they weren't sleeping together, and so he didn't speak to my mother. And I was terrified of him. I used to, when I was little. He did play with me when I was a baby, and until, but as I got older, I was afraid of him too. And there's a couple of times, though, that he did some nice things for me. I know one time, when I had the measles, he came up to see me, and I heard he never used to come upstairs. And I heard him coming up the stairs, and I wondered what he was coming up for. And then he gave me some lifesaver candies. He just came up to see me. I don't remember him saying anything. And then there was another time, I didn't like to miss school, and my shoes were in poor shape, and they needed resoling. So I was told, by one of my older sisters, that I wouldn't be able to go to school because my shoes had to be repaired. And I had no other shoes to go to school in, and I was crying. And then my dad came up to me and told me that to come with him and he'd get me some new shoes. He could either buy them in the store in Bollinger. He took me along with him and bought me a new pair of shoes then, which I was quite surprised, but I was quite pleased that he did. That's why I went to school.
I remember one story I heard Aunt Margaret and Aunt Anne were really burst out laughing over. It was one word that your dad had said. Had something to do with, he came home and he was in a bad mood, and I don't know, maybe you remember it?
No, I don't.
Well, they really thought it was funny. I think it was something about he was in a bad mood, and everybody went and hid, and you hid under the table with your rear end sticking out or something.
Yes, I
And he
really.
came up to you and he saw you hiding like that, and he said that word.
Oh, I don't know. I never.
They really thought it was funny. I remember.
Uh, yeah, well, probably. 'Cause I was. I thought I was safe under the table.
Hmm. You.
As long as I couldn't see him, then I thought I was safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you meet Dad?
Oh, I was going to some Y functions, and then they would have dance for a short while after. We went to learn crafts or something, and I went with a nurse friend of mine, and the first time I met Dad, he had asked her out, but she couldn't go out with him at that time, and she brought him over and introduced him to me, and a couple other people. And Dad was the type of person, when he was just interested in one person, he never paid much attention to anybody else. So he sort of didn't pay much attention to me, hardly when he was introduced to me, and I thought, who does he think he is, I didn't think much of him. And that was it, that time. And then it was after one of the other functions, it was for the Bang Up dance. And they had a dance, the broom dance. And they'd pass the broom around to one woman to another, and then she would take that woman's partner. And I was sort of shy, and I thought, oh dear. I was sorry I was dancing that dance, and somebody gave me the broom, and I thought, oh dear, who am I going to give this broom to now? And just as I looked up there, Dad, where Dad was dancing with, and I saw your Dad, and he was smiling to me. So I gave the broom to his partner, and he danced practically nearly every dance with me after that. But I had come to that affair with my nephew, and he asked if he could take me home, and I said no. I was going home with my nephew. So as we were waiting to get our coats, I was waiting for my nephew to get my coat. He came up to me and asked me if I would go out with him if he called me. He asked me for my phone number, and so I gave it to him. And he called me.
And you started dating.
Yes.
And you told me that you dated for a while, and there was one time when you were dating, somebody else asked you out?
Well, yes, so Dad was always talking about going back to Montreal, and I got fed up with him, saying I wanted to go back to Montreal. And so I told him that I would be going out with somebody else. So he stayed with me. It was on a Saturday. He stayed with me the whole day, left about 5 o'clock, and I went out with this fella. And he was there the next day again, And actually, after I had met Dad, I was really bored. When I went to a dance with this fellow, and I was really very bored with him. He didn't appeal to me at all.
So Dad waited to hear how it went, didn't he?
So from then on, I just never went out with anybody else. We dated until we got married. It took 3 years.
Took 3 years of dating.
Yep.
And then you lived in Vancouver for how many years? 5 years?
Yes.
And
We got
Winnipeg?
married in 1950. We moved from Vancouver in 55.
Were you nursing when you were in Vancouver?
Yes, I was working. I was working in a doctor's office then.
And then you moved to Winnipeg, and then you just became a housewife?
Yes, well, I knew I quit nursing when I started having children.
Oh, I
didn't
see.
go back to work after I had children.
And then a couple of years in Winnipeg, and Dad worked for CIL,
Yes,
and then Montreal,
yes, and then we went to Montreal in 1957.
59? 7?
1957. And then we moved to Oakville in 1963.
And been there ever since.
Yes.
Can you tell me a story about Nancy when she was...
Well, Nancy, we thought she was really cute. She was so clever. Of course, Dad was talking to her all the time, and he really thought Nancy was it. And she talked real early, and she seemed to be, old for her. She was always so smart. She spoke very clearly. We visited Lois and Lawrence in the United States. They were friends, and they thought Nancy could really speak well. And she went to bed really well. And so when we were expecting Russell, all Dad talked about was he wanted another girl
Hmm.
because he liked Nancy so much.
You didn't get
But
a wish.
I wanted to have a boy though, because I wanted to have one of each.
Mhm.
And I was lucky it turned out that way.
Mhm.
And we really thought we knew how to bring up children, but Russell was entirely different than Nancy. He got into a lot more things. He
More
was
trouble,
much more
eh?
difficult as a baby.
Do you remember any story about me when I was a baby?
Oh, he got into a lot of things. One
Uh.
thing he did, he worshipped Nancy. He worshipped Nancy. And when Nancy was sick, he always entertained Nancy.
Mhm.
He was always, he was really good. And I know when Nancy was going to kindergarten, he'd walk up as far as she was, to go and meet her sometimes. But he never would cross. He was very good. He never crossed the street. And that, he was a very good child that way.
You remember me slipping through the milk thing or something?
No, I don't remember.
I thought you told me one time I escaped out of the house
Oh.
through the.
Oh, I don't remember that now.
Hmm.
I mean, one time I know that you could always reach the lock. I couldn't lock you in because you could reach the lock and you would open the door, and they were having when we moved to Winnipeg, they were building roads, and you would get into all kinds of mud all the time.
Mhm.
It was really difficult to keep you clean
Mhm.
because there was a lot of mud in Winnipeg. Or you'd get on the tractor
Oh yeah, I started the
and
tractor.
get your clothes all over there.
Yeah.
So we really have to watch it.
I hear the phones for me, so I'm gonna turn this off.
Okay.
Hi guys.
I want a treat.